Welcome to Lesson 15 in Saxon Math Course 2. Today we're talking about equivalent fractions and also reducing fractions, the first part. Our objectives for today: after this lesson you should be able to multiply a fraction by fractions equal to 1 to form equivalent fractions, divide a fraction by a fraction equal to 1 to reduce it to lowest terms. Some review from last time. We talked about problems that deal with parts of a whole, part plus part equals whole pattern. Usually we use fractions or percents in these problems. And we also talked about probability, which is a fraction where you have favorable outcomes, whatever they're asking for, over total outcomes, which is everything that could possibly happen. We always write probability as a fraction. Today we're going to talk about equivalent fractions. So equivalent fractions use different numbers, but they represent the same value. Here's an example. 1/2 and 2/4 look different. They have different numbers, but they're actually the same number. And here's a picture that'll show you that. So here I have one circle split into halves and one circle split into fourths. So if I were to color in 1/2 of this circle, and then 2/4 of the other circle, and I'm not going to totally color it in because it would be too hard and take too long, you can see that the same amount of both circles is shaded in. So 1/2 and 2/4 are actually the same number. They're equivalent fractions. We find equivalent fractions by multiplying the numerator and denominator by the same number. Here's another example. If we took 2/3 times 4/4, so top times 4, bottom times 4, we would get 8/12. That means that 2/3 and 8/12 are equivalent fractions because we multiplied the numerator and the denominator both by 4. If I were to draw two more circles and split one into thirds and one into twelfths, and then shade 2/3 of the first one and 8/12 of the second one, just like these two circles up here, you would see that it's the same amount of the circle. So multiply the top and bottom by the same number and you get equivalent fractions. The opposite of that is reducing fractions. So we do that by dividing the numerator and the denominator by the same number. And usually in math we want to reduce to lowest terms, which means we can't reduce down any farther. And to do that right away, we find the greatest common factor of the numerator and the denominator, and that's the number we use to divide. So if we were asked to reduce 18/27 to lowest terms, the first step would be to find the greatest common factor of 18 and 27. And that is 9. So I divide numerator and denominator both by 9. 18 divided by 9 is 2. 27 divided by 9 is 3. So 18/27 reduced to lowest terms is 2/3. Here's another example. Write 70% as a reduced fraction. Well, we already learned that percents are written as fractions over 100. So 70% as a fraction starts as 70 over 100. The greatest common factor of 70 and 100 is 10, so I'm going to divide both numbers by 10. 70 divided by 10 is 7, 100 divided by 10 is 10, so 70% as a reduced fraction is 7/10. And here's one more example, 12/9 as a mixed number. So first we want to divide 12 and 9 to change from an improper fraction into a mixed number. 12 divided by 9, and then I write, instead of having a remainder, I'm going to write my answer with a fraction. So I put my remainder over my front number, my divisor, and I end up with 1 3/9. So now I just have to reduce the 3/9 part. Greatest common factor of 3 and 9 is 3, so I'm going to divide both those numbers by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, 9 divided by 3 is 3, So 12/9 as a reduced mixed number is 1 1/3. And here's just a reminder that now that we practiced and learned reducing, every time you have a fraction answer in math, you're going to have to look to reduce that to lowest terms. Sometimes it will already be reduced and you can't reduce any lower, but you should always check to see if you can reduce your fractions in math from now on. That's all for your lesson today. Make sure you do your practice problems and post any questions you have so we can talk about them next time. Your next assignment in math will be a test, so we'll see you in lesson 16 after the test.